This Week with Bob Mueller on News 2.
This week,
it would make it just uniform across the state.
A GOP bill to abolish Nashville's Community Oversight Board takes effect in just weeks.
When everybody walks away and nobody's happy, it's probably the best thing.
More GOP legislation takes power away from the mayor and gives the state authority to appoint members to the Nashville Sports Authority.
Could I remake a song?
Senator Marsha Blackburn fighting to protect songwriters from AI songwriters.
We need to secure our border.
Republicans predicted a massive surge at the border when Title 42 expired. It never happened. Crossings are actually way down.
We usually know where violence is coming from.
And our conversations with Nashville mayoral candidates continues. Tonight, hear from Metro Council member Freddie O'Connell. Hello again and welcome to another edition of This Week. A renewed call in Washington to increase the size of the U.S. Supreme Court. Senator Marsha Blackburn in the fight to protect songwriters from artificial intelligence. The GOP predicted a migrant surge once Title 42 failed. It failed to materialize. We hear from also Nashville mayoral candidate, Metro Council member Freddie O'Connell. But we begin with the GOP-backed legislation to give the state power to abolish the Nashville Community Oversight Board and appoint Nashville Sports Authority board members.
The Metro Nashville Sports Authority Board is currently made up of 13 members appointed by the mayor, but a new law gives the state more power. The mayor appoints 7, while the other 6 come from the state. 2 from the governor, 2 from the Speaker of the Senate, and 2 from the Speaker of the House.
Usually when everybody walks away and nobody's happy, it's probably the best thing. But in the end, I think everybody got a little bit of what they wanted, and I think that's important to know.
Cookeville Republican Representative Ryan Williams sponsored the legislation, which ended up passing on party lines and frustrating Democrats.
It makes us ask the question, what is the end goal? What are we trying to do here?
Last week, Governor Bill Lee talked about the need to put politics aside when it comes to the relationship between the city and the state.
There's a great desire to work together. I mean, everyone recognizes that only when Nashville is prospering, then the state is prospering.
But Democrats say the state inserting itself into the sports authority is the antithesis of what Lee is preaching.
The Super Bowl will be coming here when that new stadium's built. Again, I think they just want to cling on to something that's successful.
The move comes after Nashville's Metro Council voted against hosting the 2024 Republican National Convention. But Williams says that didn't factor into his introduction of the bill. Instead, he says it has to do with the state footing $500 million for the new Titans Stadium.
Mine was really about the fiduciary duty that I felt like the state had because we were investing the taxpayers' dollars in that stadium.
Lee signed the legislation into law late last week. You'll see the board start to shift at the beginning of next year. In Nashville, Chris O'Brien.
Republicans promised chaos and a massive surge of migrants at the southern border when the pandemic-era policy Title 42 ended. So far, the opposite has happened. There has been a massive drop in border crossings. Border officials think a surge could still come. As Jesse Tenor reports, Republicans, including one from Tennessee, say the border needs to be secure before reform can take place.
Since Title 42 ended Friday, daily encounters at the U.S.-Mexico border have dropped by half to about 5,000 each day. But DHS officials are not ready to celebrate.
Way too early to draw any firm conclusions.
Still, Blas Nunez-Neto, the Assistant Secretary for Border and Immigration Policy, says the numbers are promising. Since Friday, he reports the U.S. has repatriated about 2,500 migrants to Mexico and is holding thousands more for expedited removal.
Significantly below last week's in-custody levels.
Removals now carry a 5-year ban on reentry and potential criminal charges if someone tries to cross anyway. Nunez-Neto says the policy sends a strong message to migrants.
Use the lawful pathways that we have expanded or face the consequences of choosing dangerous, illegal options.
We need to secure our border, and then we can deal with the immigration piece.
On CNN's State of the Union, Tennessee Republican Congressman Mark Green said as chair of the House Homeland Security Committee, he's focused on building a potential impeachment case against DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas.
We're going to look very closely at the failures of this administration and Secretary Mayorkas.
Last week, House Republicans passed a border security bill Green worked on, but President Biden has promised to veto it. In Washington, I'm Jesse Tenor.
The head of ChatGPT is warning people that artificial intelligence can go quite wrong and wants to work with the government on regulation. But as talks go on, the artists that bring music to Music City are afraid they'll get left behind again. News 2's Adam Mincer with their story.
Whether it's the beat of a drum, the strings on a guitar, or a tune coming through a microphone, producer Wayne Hahn wonders, would a song make you feel the same way if the people behind the music weren't there?
When it comes to here and here, the brain and the heart, I just don't know if a computer can collaborate with how I'm feeling today.
From Napster to Spotify, Hahn has seen how technology can change the music industry.
We're still arguing about streaming and how little we're making on that. Now you have AI coming at us.
Hahn says 6 months ago, he barely knew what artificial intelligence could do. Now he worries it'll take his art, and with that, his earnings.
You could give it a title and it was writing a song for you. Somehow I think there's a little bit of copyright infringement there because there were a few lines that I thought I've heard this song before.
On Capitol Hill today, Senator Blackburn brought that issue to a leader in AI.
Using your technology, could I remake a song, insert content from my favorite artist, and then own the creative rights to that song?
The CEO of OpenAI, the group behind ChatGPT, said they are still working on figuring that out.
Content owners need to benefit from this technology. Exactly what the economic model is, we're still talking to artists and content owners about what they want.
Democrats, Republicans, and tech leaders all agree AI needs to be regulated. But Hahn wants to see talk turn into laws before the music gets worse. Artists lose control of their songs, and musicians go broke.
What's the most fearful idea is that I have to wake up and find a new career. I refuse to fall asleep at the wheel on this one.
Democrats are renewing their push to expand the U.S. Supreme Court from 9 to 13 justices. They say it would be a more accurate reflection of the country. But Republicans say it's just an attempt to make the court lean to the left. Alexandra Limon has details from our Washington, D.C. newsroom.
We must fix this broken and illegitimate court.
Senator Ed Markey and Congressman Hank Johnson are leading the effort to expand the U.S. Supreme Court.
A 6-3 far-right supermajority on the United States Supreme Court threatens our rights, our democracy, and our planet.
Democrats say expanding the court would restore balance.
Republicans captured the court against the will of most Americans.
In 2016, Republicans blocked President Obama's nominee to the Supreme Court because it was an election year. But they didn't use that same standard for President Trump's nominee in 2020.
With head-spinning hypocrisy, Senate Republicans and Donald Trump stole the late Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg's seat, forcing Amy Coney Barrett onto the bench literally as Americans were casting their vote.
Republican lawmakers oppose the efforts to expand the Supreme Court, saying the effort is nothing but a partisan attempt to make the court more liberal.
By people who just want to impose their own ideology and turn the court into a political circus. Most Americans don't want that.
In order to add 4 more seats to the court, both chambers of Congress would have to pass the bill, which is unlikely to happen. In Washington, Alexandra Limon.
Now to our This Week cover story. Nashville's Community Oversight Board was approved by Davidson County voters in 2018. The GOP supermajority legislature approved a bill to abolish what a majority of voters approved. State Capitol Newsroom reporter Chris O'Brien explains the fallout from this decision.
Michaela McCree has been part of the Nashville Community Oversight Board for about 2 years. She says she got into it because of the police brutality events of 2020.
I was really leaned in and wanted to do more in my community, and I wanted to do more along the lines of criminal justice.
But soon, that board could cease to exist. Republican lawmakers passed a bill along near party lines to abolish them in Tennessee.
We're always telling the public, trust the process. And here we have a situation where the process was completely taken away.
A community oversight board is a type of police accountability group that gained popularity in light of the spotlight on police brutality in the last few years.
Very frustrating, particularly in light of the fact that Nashvillians overwhelmingly petitioned and then through referendum vote, right, established the Community Oversight Board.
There are only 2 community oversight boards in the state, in Memphis and Nashville. This upcoming law only affects those.
It would make it just uniform across the state.
Republicans argue the bill abolishes the boards but puts in a new type of advisory committee.
Knoxville already has a similar advisory board they've had for several years that has worked very well in that community.
But current board members say those committees have virtually no power and only give referring capacity, not oversight. Plus, they're appointed by the mayor, not the community.
We're in a sad space in Tennessee where the government at the state level is preempting the voices of the people on the ground.
The law is set to take effect July 1st. In Nashville, Chris O'Brien.
And stay with us. This week continues in a moment. A conversation with Nashville mayoral candidate Freddie O'Connell.